Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Hall. I'm on the Canonical community team, and this is another edition of the Ubuntu Engineering Live webcast. Every other week, we host one of these where we get various members of the Ubuntu Engineering teams here in Canonical online and on air to answer your questions and give you an update on what their teams have been working on the past 2 weeks. With me today, I've got Alan Pope, Benjamin Zeller, Lucas, whose last name I'm not even going to try and pronounce because I'll do it wrong. Martin Albacetti and Ali Race, who are each going to be giving us an update. At any time, you can ask us questions in IRC. We're in #ubuntu-on-air. You can ask there anytime. Use the word question in all caps, and I'll get a nice highlight on it so that I don't miss it. If you are not watching this on ubuntuonair.com, then you should be, because we embed the video and the IRC chat in the same window, and that way you don't have to flip back and forth between them if you don't want to. All right, so to kick things off, we're going to get several updates from Ollie. Go ahead and take it away.
Hey. So yeah, you should probably stop pronouncing my last name as well. You butchered that.
Yeah, I butcher a lot of things. I just apologize right now.
No problem. All right, so let's start with Unity Services, the team headed by Lucio Torre and his brave men. So those guys are bringing push notifications to you. And I think we talked about that in the last 2 or so times of this call. The framework has landed. We're able to give you updates from Twitter, Facebook, Gmail. John Lenton has done an awesome G+ post showing how it's going to look like, or how it's looking like actually, and how to set it up. So if you haven't seen that, it's worth checking out. Just look for John Lenton on G+. Now, as everything has landed, the team is actually looking at doing their homework regarding power consumption. Any such framework that has lots of wake-ups will, of course, drain the battery. And so we're now, we have had measures in place before we started to sort of set the ballpark figure of where we need to be. And now, as everything is integrated, the team is looking at measuring more and see if we can do some more power savings. The SDK bindings that actually, for you as an app developer, that will enable you to use push notifications were supposed to be in Devel Proposed 2.0. I'm not quite sure if that has happened because of TrainCon 0. But if it isn't there today, then it will be there shortly after we remove the TrainCon 0 from our landing team. Then other things that the team is working on are, for example, the REST scopes. So we have scopes locally on the phone, but then there's also a couple of remote scopes, if you will, that are still executed on our servers. And there's just some cleanup and some bug fixing that they're currently doing, and also adding some fixes to the music search for our phone release. Just checking if there are questions. Then let's move on to Mir and Unity. So on the Unity 8 side, there's a lot of polishing work going on right now. There have been a couple of sprints already with design to look at the overall system and the outcome of that design. Those bugs that we found and identified are currently being fixed. But then there's also still a couple of features landing. Scope settings and favoriting of scopes is on its way to land in the image, which is really neat. You swipe up from the bottom, you get presented with all of your scopes, and you can customize the screen. So that's a really neat feature. If you haven't tried it, definitely worth giving it a shot. Then there's one bug that probably gives Lucas and others some headache regarding the clocks being out of sync. So when the phone is sleeping and you turn the screen on, there's a high chance that you will be presented with the wrong time in the infographic as well as in the indicator. And I was just told that it's something on the Unity team that they're currently looking at fixing. which should be there soon, so we can actually remove TrainCon 0 and move on with our business. In Mir, sorry, I just got distracted. There was a release of 061 to just address a couple of priority bug fixes, as Kevin wrote in his report. Some of them were the outcome of the sprints that I mentioned, and then there's also some integration issues that we found specifically around payments, where the trust integration runs into issues on the Mir side. They're all identified and currently being worked on. And last but not least, moving on to Thomas Strehl's API team, if I can find my notes. So along with what I said earlier in the Unity 8 section, scope settings and favoriting is something that both teams are actually delivering. And then we have added location data to be accessible from the scopes, and you can, as a user, define the granularity of your location and how it's supposed to be revealed to the scope. So you can say you want to provide a scope with a very accurate location where you are, or just the wider area of where you are. So that's good for people that are sensitive on that topic. You can choose how specific you want to be, or you want to be less specific, or you just turn it off entirely. As I said, payments. I think we talked about that last time. It's in the image, but it's not enabled. We're currently still working towards the staging servers of the payments workflow to enable testing, or to finish our integration testing. Once this is done, then Thomas will probably do a call for testing, a wider call for testing, because this is then really us as customers, as end users of the phone, being able to purchase an app from the store. So quite exciting. And then last but not least, Ted is in this team is busy in working on Upstart app launch improvements. So that's sort of the root of all evil for starting any application on the phone. We're currently in a larger effort working on improving the performance of the phone. Application startup and application cycling times are the most critical ones. And so with Upstart, app launch being that part of the system that launches everything, we're going in looking at its profiling data, and then Ted is just improving that script and then just fine-tuning it right now. So that's what's currently going on in the teams that are working with me.
All right, we had a question on IRC that I think is for you. DS McGuire is asking, what sort of privacy does a user have when using a scope?
So you have control over the privacy when using scopes. For example, what used to be the shopping scopes or results from Amazon, or other scopes that are leaving, where data needs to leave the phone, your device, you can actually turn that off entirely. So if you do a local search or a search on your phone, you can choose whether you want enriched results back from our servers with additional data, or if you just want to concentrate on your local content without having any of your data leaving the system. So I think that's the biggest part regarding privacy. Second, any access to location or other sensitive data can be adjusted, as I just explained. And I think those are the two big ones. I hope that answered your question.
All right. And I had a couple of questions, actually. In the demos that have been shown on Google Plus about the new scopes management, I didn't see any ability to mark a scope as being one of your favorites, which was part of the last designs that I saw. So you can have it next to like your music and your video scope always accessible. Is that still planned, and do you know when that might be coming?
Yes. So that's still planned, and as I said, it should land soon. Merge proposals are being reviewed. They are in a silo, and they are that close from actually landing in Devil proposed. So there's no hold up from an engineering perspective. It's more like landing the features right now.
Okay. And my second question is, do you have any kind of ETA on when the payments might be turned on? Rough order of magnitude?
For testing, my expectation is that within a week it's turned on for like larger testing. And then I don't know when we really go into production. That's probably closer to the actual retail date.
Okay.
Like when we remove all the safeguards that we have.
All right. Akiva has a question that may be for you and Martin both. Will there be a payment option similar to Pay What You Want, like the way Ubuntu and Humble Indie Bundle does it?
Not in this first iteration, no.
Okay.
We might incorporate it, but not. It's not planned in this first iteration. We're trying to get the basics in, keep it simple, and then make sure that what we do land is polished, and and build up from there.
All right. Andreas McGuire has a follow-up question. Does a local search on the phone with the scopes enabled send information out?
No. So if you turn off that access to remote servers, then nothing will be sent out.
And even if you have that on, with the new way scopes work, you don't have one scope that searches everything anymore. So you really end up searching, for the specific service that you want to search for and not anything else.
Correct.
All right, and Belkins asks, will phone number identity be recorded by the scopes, and if so, will that be able to be turned off?
The scopes do not have access to that type of data.
So I think scopes, so you have two options when you write a scope. You can either have a local scope that can access data on the phone, in which case it will be prevented from accessing the network. Or you can have a network scope where it will be prevented from accessing local data on the phone. So I don't think there's really any concern about scopes being able to do anything malicious.
The way how I read the question was, will a scope be able to see the call log? And my answer to that was no. You took a slightly different spin on interpreting the question, Michael. I don't know. Let us know about Kinsam.
Trying to give a broader answer on that.
Yeah.
All right. We'll move on then to Martin.
Hi. So my team has been mostly focusing on making sure everything is polished and ready to scale. So a lot of the majority of the work we've been doing isn't really visible, and if we do our jobs properly, it won't be visible because everything will just work. I think the biggest externally visible piece that has landed is that click package signing has landed. So anything you upload to the store and anything that has been previously uploaded to the store is now signed by the server. So essentially, when you upload your click package, the server will take that package, it'll deb sign it. So that means the binary that you download will be different from the one you uploaded because it will have the signature appended to it. It uses debsig, so the same, the same thing used to sign Debian packages. So everything on the store is now signed by the server, and verification of those signatures is likely going to land by the end of this week. And once that lands, that means that the phone will download from the store and will verify the signature and will ensure that anything you try and install on the device has been inspected previously by the server and approved, which is when the server actually signs it. So this is essentially a security measure we're adding. So that's landed and on the server, and it's gonna roll out on the client within the next couple of days. The click tagging feature is split into two. It's the server that signs a package when it gets it, and it stores it signed and obviously delivers that binary to phones. The second part of the story, which we're now working on, is having requiring that developers sign packages themselves before they upload. The server will verify those signatures, sign that signed package itself, and then pass it on to users. So that way, we can guarantee that packages are not being tampered with when they go between the developer and our server and the server and the client. For what's going to ship in the first handsets, we are not going to require developer signatures. We're just going to make sure that the server has signed it, because all of this goes obviously through SSL, so we have some level of protection there, and we'll be able to guarantee that once we get a package, we store it. It can't be tampered with once it's been stored, and it can't be tampered with between the server and the device. So I think that's the biggest. I mean, we're doing a lot of work on moving some of the old services we had built into Juju and making sure they scale out well, making sure we can roll out new versions of the code without interrupting the service and things like that, which, as I said, should be hopefully transparent to everybody. And we're just tweaking and making small changes to make flows on the client easier and nicer to use. I think that's mostly it for me.
All right, we've got some questions for you. Akiva ThinkPad is asking, will Bitcoin payment be an option?
It will be an option initially. We have been looking at it. We haven't committed to it. We have to explore a little bit more, but we might support it. As I said before, we're trying to make sure we focus on the basics and make sure those work really well before we start tacking on features. And we already had a payment infrastructure for credit cards and PayPal, and that's what we are going to support initially before we expand. And we got to make sure that works really well and we're really comfortably on the phone first. So don't expect Bitcoin in the next set of months, 4 to 6 months. But we have been thinking about it a little bit, and we might add it.
All right. The next one might be for Ollie. Mr. Brownstone asks, has there been any further work on the tablet side stage, or will that happen after RTM for the phone?
Sorry, I was muted, and the tab was again. So specifically on side stage, I think the work has been put on the back burner for in the tablet mode. But I know that the foundation, so Mir, has received a couple of changes to make the side stage work easier when we get to it in the next couple of weeks. So no on the specific feature, yes on the foundational work.
Okay. Popey asks, can I still sideload apps using ADB push and pkcon install local once signing comes in?
So developer mode will have to disable signature checking. So once you enable the developer mode, all security is lost, and at that point you can do whatever you want. So you can sideload it, but you have to explicitly forgo the security aspect of verifying server signatures.
So what is actually going to check it on the phone? Is it the store scope that downloads it, or is it the click tools themselves that install it?
The click tools themselves that install it. So there's two verifications that happen. One is so the scope itself verifies that the hash of the file that it downloaded matches what the server thinks it is. So that's the first verification, to make sure you got the same binary as the server expected you to get. That happens on the scope level. The signature verification against the public key happens on the click tools level. So there's two layers of verification.
Okay.
If you sideload apps, you skip the scope, right, and you install directly from the click tool sets.
But I would still, if I've got a mixture, I'm a semi-developer, semi-user. I've got one phone, and I've sideloaded some rubbish apps that I've developed myself, which don't answer. But I can still install apps from the store, and those will be signed and those will be checked, even though so I'm only turning off signing for packages which I've sideloaded. Signing still exists for packages which come from the store, right?
I would expect that once you turn on developer mode and you sideload apps, signing verification goes away. I don't know if the story there has been fully fleshed out, but I mean, there's something explicit happens. Once you sideload anything, you're essentially, going around these security mechanisms, and you're forgoing security. So I think we have to make sure that we're not pretending that you can break some parts of the security and it'll still be fine, right? Once you break anything in this chain, then essentially all bets are off. And I think we want to make sure that's explicit and people understand it. I mean, we can flesh out that story a little bit more, but I think the story there should be like that. Should be, once you forgo, you break any part of the chain, then it's 100% your responsibility. You can do whatever you want with your device, but there's just too many attack vectors that open, right, for us to still pretend we're giving you a certain amount of guarantee.
Understood. Thanks.
All right, Nicholas has a question. Any ETA on when newly added apps to the store will be shown under a new category or department, such as newly added?
Right. I don't have an ETA. I can tell you two things. We have been doing a lot of hard and uncomfortable work to be able to add those things without having to update the device themselves. So we've been pushing a lot of the logic that generates those views completely to the server, so we can add these things at any point in time without having to go back and update the devices. So that's where the bulk of our work has been going, around that story. So we have this flexibility to evolve it and not have to, block and depend on updating the device. So that's one part of the answer. Right now we have the concept of highlights, essentially, which are manually curated lists of applications that can be highlighted on the home or on each department. We have that concept. It's working on the device. And after devices are released and all of that is working well, we are going to move on to introducing dynamically generated highlights, newly added being one of them. So that would be something that is automatically generated based on certain algorithm or certain values. The first obvious one is absolutely newly added applications. I would expect that would be something that would be per department, but I would expect that's also a few months away, since, again, focusing on getting what's there really well polished and working.
All right. So I actually quite liked having the suggested apps on the apps lens under my installed ones. Are there any plans to bring that back in any form, or is it just going to be the link essentially to the Ubuntu store at the bottom?
I think that's an Ollie question.
And I would have to check what the designs are. I don't know from the top of my head.
Okay. All right. Akiva asks, will there be a design session or conference for the Unity 8 tablet design? And the answer for that, and with basically anything else that goes into Ubuntu development, we have regular developer summits. They're now called the Ubuntu Online Summit because we've combined a lot of user sessions in there also. The next one will be held in November, the 12th through the 14th. And there will be a lot of topics on there around development plans for the next release of Ubuntu. So for Ubuntu 15.04 desktop, tablet, and phone. So there should be some good design discussions there and all kinds of other stuff. So you should definitely try and attend that. Blue Dragon 777. Will we ever have the option to move the top menu bar to the lower side or the side? I'm assuming you're talking about the bar with the indicators on it. And no, there's no plans to be able to move that. There are plans for the shell itself, the whole shell, to rotate. So if you turn your phone into landscape mode, the shell itself would be able to rotate and continue to put that indicator bar at the top of the screen, depending on the orientation of the phone.
That is actually weeks away from being available. So my expectation is that in September we will see that rolled out into the official image.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Me too, because it will be a huge improvement.
Yeah. Belkinza asks, will users see permissions for what apps do when they install them? The short answer to that is no. The long answer is that the way our security model works, apps have to ask for content, and then users give them permission to access that content. So instead of saying, I need access to all of your contacts in order to be installed, we'll let the app install, and then when the app actually wants to do something with some contacts, it has to ask the user for access to specific ones. So it's not a blanket statement at install time. It's more fine-grained than that, and it gives you a much better degree of control over what your apps are doing and what they're accessing. Ubuntu. When are you releasing the final version of Ubuntu Phone OS?
I think that it's the wrong question because I don't think we have in a final release, because we'll carry on working on it, for months and months and months. So it's not like there will be a final release and then we all go home and have a nice long holiday. We're going to carry on working on this through the the months and through next year as well. So it's not like there's a final release. The better question would be, when will there be devices that ship with a version of Ubuntu in stores, which is a question we get every week when we do this, and the answer is soon.
Yes.
And
so not before
happens,
September for devices.
Right.
You'll hear us talk quite a bit about RTM, which is coming up real soon here, and that's when we have to get all of our features in place and in the images so that the OEMs can start using those to get their device up and running and get that ready to ship. So that's what we're under kind of a crunch right now to get all of that done. And then sometime after that, once the OEMs are ready to ship their actual devices, you'll start to see those on the market. As far as the actual software itself, we kind of said that last year was our 1.0 release. And then, of course, now we're following the same release cadence as desktop Ubuntu. So we're currently working on 14.10 Utopic for the device images, and that will be released in the end of October. I'm not sure the exact date, but sometime in October, because it is 14.10. And then his second question is, will the final Ubuntu OS for phone be fully functional on the Nexus 4? Because that's not the case now. And I think that depends on what you mean by fully functional. I've been using it on my Nexus 4 for coming up on a year now, and I've been quite happy with it, especially lately. It's been very, very stable. I don't know what functionality you are missing, if it's apps, if it's system. So if you can clarify that, we can probably get you a better answer. All right. DS McGuire, I can remember reading that we could use some code from Migo. The code in question was how apps launch and how Migo did it so quickly. Is this true? I'm not sure, Benjamin, is that something you can answer? Or Ollie?
Ben, you want to take that?
I cannot really answer that. So.
Okay. So the superhero team that's currently investigating that type of performance work is looking at how a fast app startup time has been done before. So yes, I think that we have been looking at Migo. I don't know, but I would assume that you just see what your options are. So that's an assumption here, that we're looking at practices that were rolled out into the market. What I know for sure is that we won't be able to take code one for one verbatim and plug it into Ubuntu for mobile, because it's just, we have a different app lifecycle story, we have different toolkits, for newer versions, and so on and so forth. So there's lots of incompatibility. I think at a concept level, at an architecture level, there might be lessons we can learn. I would assume that the team is looking at those, but we just can't copy and paste whatever Migo did and assume it's working flawlessly.
All right, I'm going to try and get through the rest of these so that we can get back to our updates. Heavens asks, will the Nexus 4 continue to be the design platform for Ubuntu for devices after RTM, and how long will this remain the case?
That's an interesting question that we're discussing internally as well. So we have a huge pool of N4 assets in the company. Right, so I don't think that we're just gonna sell them on eBay anytime soon. So I think they will stay around. However, mobile is a market that just develops so quickly and changes so quickly, and we're always looking at the next development platform. We haven't made a decision yet, but it's something we're currently constantly evaluating.
All right.
Also difficult for our early adopters who, right now our supported platform is a phone you cannot buy yet. So you can't buy Nexus 4s in the shop anymore. So that presents a problem as well.
All right, Tyler D asks, how will Ubuntu Phone handle hotspot access via wireless for forced portals? I don't understand that question. Does anybody else here know what he's asking?
Yeah, so for example, in my local pub, they have wireless, and as soon as you connect to it on Android and iOS, you get redirected to a captive portal where you sign in or click agree, like a hotel Wi-Fi captive portal, that kind of thing. And at the moment, I don't think we have a handler for it, so you'd have to manually go to your browser and then you get redirected to some sign in or agree to terms and conditions. I know there's been talk about fixing that in the network stack so that you automatically redirect to the right page, but I don't think that's complete. But that's been something that's been discussed in Ubuntu desktop for many years. So yes, I'm not sure we can fix it overnight.
Okay. And then finally, Akiva asks, before RTM, which application needs the most work so I know which to contribute to? And Alan, I will let you take that one.
Let's have that conversation offline, because that's a short question with a very long answer.
Yeah. So basically, if you want to contribute to apps, talk to Alan. He's got a bunch of core apps, all of which can always use some additional help.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. All All right, that's all of the questions, so we'll get back to updates with Lucas.
Sorry, I've been looking for the mute button. Okay, so thanks, Michael. So about some updates from our team, from the landing team's perspective. So currently we're in TrainCon 0, as we already mentioned. I think Ollie mentioned that. So for those that don't know, TrainCon 0 is a special mode that we switch to from the landing team side that basically the goal is to slow down the velocity of landings that happen, and that we are able to minimize the risk of including regressions to Ubuntu and get a promotable image as soon as possible. So usually TrainCon 0 happens whenever we don't have a promotion for longer than 7 days, 7 business days, which has been the case here, but we also decided to switch to it a bit earlier since we actually want to have a promoted image as soon as possible, since we want to use it as like the first base image for RTM based images as well, since we have to start off from something. So we want to have a promoted baseline for Ubuntu RTM based images. So we're still struggling. There are currently 3 blockers remaining. We did some testing. Our dog fooders did some testing right now, and it seems that only those 3 blockers remain. Nothing else has been introduced. 2 of them are basically have a fix almost ready. One of them is still under consideration, and we might consider actually either whitelisting or finding a workaround for now with it, so that we can get a promotable image later today or tomorrow. I'm still being very, very optimistic about this, but yes, since TrainCon 0 is basically slowing down everyone, then that means that everyone actually wants to have the TrainCon 0 over. But besides that, we finally did a big switch in our CA train architecture. The CA train, the infrastructure that we use to land packages in Ubuntu. Now the CA train also supports actually landing to the Ubuntu RTM distribution, so-called, since the official switch, the big official switch, I mean the big official launch of Ubuntu RTM didn't yet happen because we're waiting for a promotable image. But so that everyone knows, there's besides currently we had like Ubuntu was the distribution that everything was being developed for, but now we also have a distribution that's called Ubuntu RTM, which is a separate distro that we use for images that we want to be like candidates for the nearing RTM Ubuntu Touch releases. So everything that actually after we officially open it up, everything that like a developer wants to have in the final RTM image that will be shipped to the manufacturer, then he must make sure that it lands in the Ubuntu RTM archive, not only the Ubuntu archive. So now CA Train supports that. The dashboard supports that. All our front end and back end, everything works fine. Right now, we still don't recommend landing for Ubuntu RTM currently because, as I mentioned, the official switch, so to say, didn't happen yet. It will happen after we get a promotable image. So right now, everything that you promote, that you publish to Ubuntu RTM, is just like temporary, and it will be actually wiped. We suppose that tomorrow would be the date when that actually happens. So that's one of the things. Yes. So I also wanted to use an occasion to tell everyone that's listening in how the procedure for if someone wants something to be landed in the RTM images, how it would look like. So one thing that's worth mentioning, everything that we except for RTM, should be released already in the Ubuntu archive. So the procedure is that when we have some changes that we want to have in the RTM distribution of Ubuntu, then first of all we need to prepare a landing, get that released to Ubuntu, to uTopic currently, and once that's released to Ubuntu, you have to prepare another landing through CA-train targeting Ubuntu RTM, and only then it will be accepted to the RTM distribution and available in the distro itself. So that's worth mentioning, not the other way around, just so that everyone knows. From other things, in the meantime, the last 2 weeks we published quite a few things. We were able to get, sadly, we were able to get only 1 or 2 promoted images to the Devil channel. It seems that everyone is so busy with all the features that we actually weren't able to get too much attention on actual bug fixes for some of the blockers, and every time we were blocked by something. But we had a new mirror, which actually didn't cause any issues, so it was a really safe landing. We had also a few Ubuntu UI Toolkit releases, and Unity 8, and many others. So I guess that we still have a few landings that are waiting. Quite a few of them are very important, but we want to wait them off a bit until we get a promotable image, which we hope will happen pretty soon. And I think that's it from the landing side.
All right. So once we do make that break for RTM, what is the landing process going to be? Are they going to land in the archives and then the regular Devel channel first, or are they going to go into this RTM channel first and then into the Devel channel? Can you give us this?
So the procedure is that first it goes to the, let's say, the Devil channel. So first it needs to land in Ubuntu, in uTopic, and in, for instance, in trunk. If we're looking from the Bazaar branch side of things, you first need to land it in trunk and release it for Ubuntu. Once it's released in Ubuntu, then you can, if you want this very particular thing, this feature that you just landed to Ubuntu, you want to have it in the RTM parts, then you just have to prepare a different landing with the same changes, just targeting RTM specific branches and targeting Ubuntu RTM if you want to have it in there. So this will then be, we'll handle it almost like a normal landing, just there might be an additional check being made by QA to make sure that everything that lands in Ubuntu RTM is totally high quality and doesn't break the image or like degrade the quality of the images.
All right, thank you. We'll move on now to Benjamin.
Thanks.
Okay. So short update from the QGC and the tools. Currently, we are working on making the SDK or the QGC plugin more core apps friendly. So that means what we want is that someone checks out the branch and can instantly build it in QGC and package it and work with it. Right now, the problem is that we have some requirements on the project structure, like the manifest file needs to be in the root of the project directory and stuff like that. So we worked on that, and there's now a way to tell in the project file, tell the plugin where to look for the manifest file and how it's named. And it also brings new editors for the manifest files and the AppArmor files. Currently, we have those editors in the Publish tab, and it's not clearly visible which project the user is editing at the moment. So from now on, you will see your manifest files and AppArmor files in your project tree and can open the editor from there. And you can basically switch between a graphical editor and a source code editor. So that should land soon or is landed already. I don't know exactly. And yeah, the next big thing we're working on will be supporting scopes directly from QTC, running them directly, debugging them directly from QTC on the phone. We are now waiting for the support in the phone image to land. And that stuff is currently in testing and should hopefully land soon. And I think we will see support for that not so long after that support has landed in the image. Yeah, I guess that's from me. I didn't follow the toolkit updates this week, so yeah, I cannot give any updates on that. Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you. Go ahead and keep your questions coming, but I'm going to go ahead and go on to Alan so that we can get through all of these updates first. But don't wait until the end to get your questions in, or we might not have time to get to them.
I thought we were going to run out of time and you were going to skip me.
Oh. No such luck.
So, an update for the core apps. A couple of weeks ago, we asked if people could contribute to the translations of the core apps, and in fact, the system apps and things like the dash and indicators and all that kind of good stuff as well. And it's going very well. We've had lots of contributions there and fixes where certain parts of applications weren't translatable. We've got hardwired strings, so those have been fixed as well. That's really good. There still needs to be people actively working on the translations, though. So keep an eye on that page that I've just pasted. It's Dave Planella has a stats page that's generated regularly with translation stats for all the languages. That's worth keeping an eye on. It's very easy. You can click through to your language and then click through to Launchpad to find all the things that need translating and do them directly through that. It's a great little portal for that kind of stuff. Moving on to specific applications, the Reminders app had some translation strings fixed, so that's good news. There was also an API change done by Michael Zanetti, so thank you, Michael, and Victor for the translation updates. The API change was to allow saving of notebooks, which previously wasn't possible in the API. And Reminders is going to be getting some design love from the Canonical design team soon, which should make the Reminders app more of a general purpose note-taking app and probably replace the existing Notes app on the phone. But that's a few weeks off at the moment. Moving on to music, loads of bug fixes in music and UI updates. A few worth mentioning, well, they're all worth mentioning, of course, but I'm running low on time. The main feature that's been added to the music app is we've added Content Hub support. So if you're in the web browser, for example, and you download music files, because of our app isolation, those music files would be owned by the browser, but we've integrated Music App via Content Hub so that when you download a music file, it can then be pulled across to the Music App library and you can play it in the Music App. It works really nicely. That landed in the store this morning. So do update your phone and test that feature out. Go online in the browser and try downloading various music files and file bugs if you find any issues with it. As I said, loads of UI improvements going on. For example, when you first start the music app, if you don't have any music on your device, it tells you to put music on the device and then restart the music app. And we reworded that kind of stuff, so it's a bit less clunky. Improve some UI stuff like transparencies in labels and buttons so they look like they're actually being pressed, that kind of stuff. And some fixes to bugs relating to playing music. So, for example, if you had a single track in the queue and you press play, it would initiate shuffle mode and play that one track over and over and over and over again, which is probably not what you want. So we fixed that as well. There's been some work with the music app and the design team working on some preliminary new designs for the music app. So that's going to come soon. It's a few weeks away because they're still working on the designs, but they're working closely with the music app guys so they know what's possible, and we can feedback in both directions. Calendar app, loads of fixes in the calendar app. Things like updating icons, lots of fixes to autopilot tests, some fixes relating to creating and managing events. We had a problem where the date picker wasn't visible, so you create an event and you couldn't specify the date because you couldn't, when you tap on the date picker didn't appear, so you couldn't change the little tumblers to choose the date of your event. That's all been fixed, which is great. Moving on to the clock, Neklesh is working really hard on the clock reboot. So if you're interested in seeing that, if you've got an Ubuntu device, the clock that ships in the image is the old clock or legacy clock, which we're going to remove soon once the clock reboot is done, and we'll replace that clock app with the new one that Neklesh is working on. He's been working through all the necessary bugs to get that landed. We're blocked on the image promotion, so once an image is promoted, we'll be able to swap the legacy clock and the new clock over. And that should happen soon, right, Lucas? We should get a promoted image sometime soon, and then we'll flip-flop the clock app over. Weather app, there's been some UI improvements in the weather app. We've implemented the new header and some other textual changes to things like translations and the way we word things in the weather app. That's also getting a redesign, and that's being worked on by the design team at the moment. The file manager had a feature added that was requested by the security team to prevent a random user from messing up your file. So if you had your phone with the file manager installed and someone picked up your phone, could launch the file manager app and then like mess around with your files. And so we've added an additional security step in the file manager. If you've got a PIN code or passphrase set on your phone, when you open the file manager, it will only expose a limited amount of files. So the same files that are exposed over MTP when you plug in a USB cable. If you want to do anything more potentially dangerous, then you have to press a button and type in the PIN code or passphrase. And we're also implementing that in the Terminal app, because the reason is those two apps, File Manager and Terminal, are both unconfined, so they're potentially dangerous applications. So the security team asked us to implement this, and the community developers stepped up and created a plugin to enable that, which is great. That's done for File Manager, but it's not quite finished for the Terminal, so we'd appreciate some help with that. We've migrated the terminal to the new header as well, and we've got a few bug fixes, again, translation-related bug fixes in terminal. Sudoku app has some UI improvements based on some feedback from Mark Shuttleworth on Google+, suggested some design improvements to the Sudoku app, and Sudoku author implemented those, and they've landed, which is always nice to see. And a few other bug fixes as well. I think that's pretty much everything. Very quickly.
All right, thanks, Alan. Let's see, we got a couple of questions. I'm going to start with KY7EN. On the Nexus 2 or other tablet with Android 4 Plus, will the option to install dual boot system? I believe the 2013 Nexus 7 we support dual boot on. There's a wiki page for it. It's wiki.ubuntu.com/touch/dual boot installation, I think is the page name, that has instructions on how to do that. Ubuntu was saying that the data, Bluetooth data and Wi-Fi settings, if he disables them and then reboots, they come back. Does anybody know if there's any plans to make those persist between reboots?
I think you need a system settings person for that.
Yeah, I think so. So any questions we can't answer here, we've got all kinds of IRC channels you can go and ask them in. Something like this, you could go to #ubuntu-touch and ask in there, and there should be somebody who can answer that for you. Or you can go to #ubuntu-unity if you have any questions about the desktop or the phone shell. And of course, ubuntu-app-dev if you have any questions about application development. All right, I'm going to give a couple of real quick updates from the community side. We have the Ubuntu Global Jam coming up in September 12th through the 14th. Global Jam is a time where we encourage members of our local teams to get together and meet up in person 1 weekend each cycle to hack on something related to Ubuntu. It can be development, documentation, testing, or even just evangelism and outreach. So again, that's coming up September 12th through the 14th. We've got 2 workshops next Wednesday. One's going to be during European daytime. One's going to be during the Americas daytime. So we're going to have those to talk about things that you can do during a global jam, how to organize one, how to pick a venue, and spread the word. So if you're interested in having one, but you're not quite sure how, you can come to one of these workshops and we'll walk you through it. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the Ubuntu Online Summit that's coming in November, the 12th through the 14th again. And this will be 3 days, I think 8 hours worth of sessions each day, ranging from development planning to new user introductions to Ubuntu and all kinds of stuff in between. We'll start gathering sessions for that over the next couple months and start building up the schedule. But that's where we'll be doing a lot of our planning also for Ubuntu 15.04. So keep an eye out for more information on that, and I hope to see you during the Global Jam workshops next week. And then 2 weeks from today, we will have another one of these Ubuntu Engineering Live updates. Same time, same channel. Be sure to come and join us there. And as always, follow us Twitter @UbuntuOnAir and youtube.com/UbuntuOnAir. Thank you everyone for coming and giving your updates, and thank you everyone on IRC for all of your great questions. We will see you later. Bye.
Bye.